A typical room. A shout produces an immediate response. The walls bounce the sound back to you, confirming you were heard. It's a basic law of the physical world, but there is a silent, psychological version of this phenomenon. Imagine a child extending an invisible thread of emotion, hoping for a tug from the other side. They aren't always looking for a lecture or a solution. Sometimes they just need a specific kind of light in a parent's eyes, or a slight nod that says, "I see you, and you are significant." When that thread falls slack, and the silence is all that remains, a child doesn't blame the environment. They aren't wired for that logic. Instead, they assume the signal they sent wasn't worth receiving. This is the quiet origin of a long-term struggle. Here at Quiet Pressure Sketchbook, we're looking at why silence is heavy. For decades, the mental health field has viewed trauma as a visible collision, a specific, tragic event you can circle on a calendar. We think of car accidents or sudden losses, clear before and after. While those are real, this focus has ignored a massive spectrum of pain. From the outside, the life looks perfectly intact. The house is clean, the parents are present, no scars to show. Nobody writes books about the birthday party where you felt like a ghost, or the hours spent crying into a pillow while life continued undisturbed. We tend to think that things which didn't happen don't count. We feel like we're being dramatic if we try to explain the weight, yet these non-events leave a deep, lingering imprint. Just because a wound is made of thin air doesn't mean it doesn't bleed. Clinicians identify this as childhood emotional neglect. Its elusive nature is exactly why it's been ignored for so long. It isn't defined by an action, but by a chronic void. Persistent lack of emotional resonance and the absence of a mirror. Children learn the map of their own hearts like a mother tongue by hearing it spoken back to them. When a caregiver notices a slumped shoulder and asks a question, "You look a bit overwhelmed. Is that right?" They are doing something revolutionary, proving to the child that their internal world is real and nameable. When this never occurs, that child grows into a stranger to themselves, often unable to put a finger on what they are feeling. This is often called alexithymia, a literal lack of words for emotions. It isn't a personality trait, it's a hollow space. This creates a specific archetype in adulthood that is misunderstood. These are the reliable ones, the high achievers who have it together, appear fine because being fine was the only way to survive. Dr. Jonas Webb describes people who walk into her office without crisis, but with a vague, heavy sense they are missing a vital piece. It's a feeling of living life behind a pane of glass. Not quite depressed, not quite anxious, just muted. This is the core of what we explore at Quiet Pressure Sketchbook, looking for the colors in that gray space. In relationships, this background of invisibility becomes a minefield. When you've spent your life feeling unseen, true connection feels dangerous. You might find yourself pushing away a sincere compliment, or feeling a strange sense of panic when someone offers unconditional love. It feels suffocating because your internal compass is screaming it's a trap. If affection was a ghost during your childhood, you learned to stop relying on it to keep yourself sane. You became the person who doesn't need anyone. Self-sufficiency that looks like armor but is an old survival tactic. The need for intimacy didn't die, it just went underground. After years of being ignored, your emotions simply stopped shouting because they learned that no one was coming. Recent research confirms this lack of early attunement leads to massive hurdles. It remains one of the most neglected areas of study. The trauma of being ignored is itself being ignored by science. But I want you to hear this clearly: the way you adapted wasn't a flaw. It was a brilliant, necessary strategy. You learned to become small to fit into a small space. You became the joker, the overachiever, or the invisible one, because those were the only tools in your box. The problem is that our bodies keep using these tools long after. You're still bracing for a blow that isn't coming, and flinching at kindness because your nervous system hasn't received the memo. that you're safe now. News is that the brain is incredibly plastic. You aren't stuck in that silent room forever. Healing from this is a slow, strange process of mourning things that never existed. How do you grieve a void? How do you process a memory that is defined by what was missing? It takes patience and often a guide, but it starts with a simple, radical choice, deciding that your experience matters. The fact that no one showed up for you doesn't mean you weren't worth the effort. It never did. Practical healing isn't about one giant epiphany, it's about tiny, daily acts of self-witnessing. It's noticing your frustration and letting it sit there for a moment instead of suffocating it. It's catching yourself dismissing a kind word and wondering why it feels so threatening. These small moments of attention are the building blocks of a new reality. For many, this is the first time anyone has ever told them their inner life is worth a second glance. It won't change everything by tomorrow. Every time you listen to yourself, the glass gets a little thinner. Learning to be your own audience is the ultimate act of recovery. If you're someone who found this at 2 in the morning and felt a sudden, sharp recognition, that feeling is your system finally echoing back to itself. The sound you make was always worth hearing. You were just in the wrong room. If this helped you find words for your own silence, please consider subscribing to Quiet Pressure Sketchbook. I dive into these topics often, and I'd love to have you along as we figure this out together. There's also a way to support the work more directly through the join button. Take a look at the other videos here. You might find another piece of your own story waiting for you. I'll see you in the next one.